Oba Femi's direction following his match against Brock Lesnar has been revealed, and fans are feeling a bit mixed on it. We'll also check out what's up with Raquel, Stephanie, and more. Starting things off with the latest for Oba Femi. Oba was just called up to the main roster back in January for the Royal Rumble, and as usual for big main roster call-ups, there were some nerves amongst the community. A lot of fans were a little nervous and anxious to see if they really handle Oba Femi properly on the main roster. There's been several former NXT champions that reached great success on the main roster, but there's also been a lot of former NXT champions that have flopped and fallen on their faces on the main roster. So understandably, there were a lot of nervous fans out there for when it came to Oba getting called up to the main roster, with everyone just wondering if they'll handle Oba properly. And surprisingly, things have been pretty smooth so far. Oba started his main roster career with brief little rivalries against Rusev, Kit Wilson, and a few others, and it was great. He didn't get into any long drawn-out feuds. It was all brief encounters that showcased his dominance and worked perfectly. This of course led up to the moment of Oba Femi accepting Brock Lesnar's open challenge for WrestleMania 42. After several brief feuds, Oba was entering the biggest feud of his career for his WrestleMania debut match. The crowds were hot for the story of Oba versus Brock every single week on Raw. It was probably one of the most anticipated matches of the entire WrestleMania 42 card. And as far as the WrestleMania match itself, a lot of fans were fearful that Oba would lose his match against Brock, since it's been rumored that Brock was wrapping up his career soon. So everyone thought Brock would defeat Oba to gain some momentum heading into his final few matches. But to everyone's pleasant surprise, Oba Femi actually defeated Brock Lesnar and even made Brock retire for the time being. So just a flawless WrestleMania debut for Oba Femi. He defeats Brock Lesnar in his own WrestleMania debut and in Brock's final WrestleMania match. That puts Oba down in the history books forever and has given him so much momentum coming out of WrestleMania 42. So what is next for Oba's usage? Well, a recent edition of Raw confirmed that Oba Femi will now host his own weekly Open Challenge. The Open Challenge will run weekly exclusively on Monday Night Raw. Oba will be in action every single week against a brand new opponent. The way Oba described it made it seem like this was a challenge for the Raw roster, but there's been some buzz that maybe this Open Challenge could be available to accept for anyone on any of the company's brands. A lot of fans question the logic behind someone answering an Open Challenge for somebody that doesn't have a title, and Oba did explain his reasoning behind that. Oba said that with champions being tied up with long rivalries, it's hard for upcoming stars to make a name for themselves and prove that they're ready to compete for titles. So Oba wants his Open Challenge to be the platform of opportunity for stars to try and make a name for themselves. Individuals that accept the Open Challenge aren't competing for any title, but Oba wants them to pretty much compete against him for the spotlight and attention. If you think you deserve to be in the title picture, you have to prove it to Oba pretty much. He's basically presenting himself as the passageway to the main event world title scene. If you want to compete for one of those world titles one day, you got to get past him first and prove it here in the Open Challenge. So judging by this Open Challenge direction, it doesn't look like Oba will be getting into any long-term feuds anytime soon. It's looking like it's going to be just brief one-off matches as part of the Open Challenge. As far as the actual reasoning for Oba hosting these Open Challenges, it seems like a tactic to just buy some time for a bit until Oba himself is ready to compete for the world title. So the Open Challenge direction is a way to keep him on television and having him compete every week, so it does accomplish that. And it looks like that bigger long-term storyline could be coming up for Oba a little bit later in the year. Nothing is confirmed at the moment, but fans speculate that SummerSlam could be another huge stage for Oba Femi's career. It's the company's second biggest show of the year, another two-night event, so a lot of fans assume that Oba absolutely has to have a major match on that SummerSlam 2026 card. A very early fan prediction for that SummerSlam card has been Oba versus Roman for the world title. And if that match does take place at SummerSlam, it would be huge and has Night 2 main event written all over it. And that match could go either way, so it makes it a very interesting matchup. But that appears to be the latest for Oba Femi at this current moment. He should easily walk through everyone that the Open Challenge will present him with, and maybe towards the end of the Open Challenge series, maybe he does find an opponent that is credible enough to him. Maybe that's the end game and payoff there for the Open Challenge, but either way, Oba shouldn't really lose a single match in the Open Challenge series. He should dominate it and continue to build momentum into the main event scene on Monday Night Raw. A big news story that was introduced on Raw recently could put another superstar's direction in question, and that's Raquel Rodriguez. In the closing months of 2025 and the early 2026, we saw Raquel really becoming a rebel. She was sick of Liv Morgan trying to take control of her and was so tired of listening to orders and being treated in that fashion. This led to a little arc there of Raquel taking matters into her own hands, getting world title matches and trying to win the world title on her own. Raquel would end up losing all of those world title opportunities and getting screwed in those matches, and then after Liv Morgan won the Royal Rumble match, Raquel was pushed back into the background. Liv was now getting the world title opportunities and spotlight, while Raquel fell back into the shadows. And of course, at WrestleMania 42 itself, we saw Liv Morgan become the new World Heavyweight Champion. The goal Raquel was so desperately after over the last few months had been achieved by her friend Liv Morgan. And this had fans wondering if the tension was finally going to boil up between Raquel and Liv, especially after Raquel's Rebel arc from a few months back. But it looks like that direction may not be happening at all. Reason being that they're now heavily hinting at a long story between Roxanne and Liv. That's going to be the main Judgment Day in-house tension storyline right there for the foreseeable future, meaning that Raquel and Liv's existing issues may be temporarily put on that back burner since the focus is now on Liv and Roxanne's story. So that's what's making fans feel like we won't see a Raquel versus Liv story anytime soon, because Liv versus Roxanne has become the main story for the Judgment Day. Maybe Raquel versus Liv still happens down the line, but at least for the time being, it looks like Liv versus Roxanne will be taking place first. As far as an update goes with Stephanie, reports claim that she is legitimately dealing with an injury at the moment. The April 27th edition of Raw saw the Judgment Day attack Stephanie backstage, and it doesn't seem like this was any little backstage attack. This was a segment that was meant to write Stephanie off for a little bit of time. Stephanie is dealing with a legitimate shoulder-related injury, and this April 27th backstage attack was meant to explain why Stephanie will be missing some time here in the near future. It was reported a few weeks back that Stephanie was a bit banged up and hurt walking into her WrestleMania match against Liv Morgan, and this appears to be the injury she was working through at WrestleMania 42. It seems like Stephanie worked that WrestleMania match with this injured shoulder, and that played a part in why that match was so short and brief. It was reported that they were trying to keep both Liv and Stephanie from any further injuries, and it looks like Stephanie's shoulder is what was being protected there at WrestleMania. There's no timetable for Stephanie's return, but everyone hopes that it's nothing serious, and that she could be back much sooner than expected. And it would still be nice to see a Liv versus Stephanie match with them both being at 100%, so hopefully that's still on the way. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.